The American Le Mans Series helped to return racing to the streets of downtown Miami for what would be the last 2-hour 45-minute race of the year. The Audis had been strong again, with Frank Biela leading the field away from pole position. A spin early in the race left the pro-drive Ferrari with some catching up to do in the GTS class, whilst Ron Fellows was soon to take the class lead in the number 3 Corvette that needed to keep it clean here and score some championship points. All drivers were finding it difficult on this new, very slippery and very hot circuit. Claudia Hurtgen and the 11 Nighthawk had taken the 6.75 pole and kept the class lead into the race. Meanwhile, in the GT class, the 2 Alex Job Porsches were making all the running, but the 22 car was not giving the championship leaders in the 23 car an easy time at all. There were several incidents and retirements, and the Intersport team were amongst those that suffered. And the stop-and-go box also had quite a few visitors. Championship leaders Christensen and Cappello were playing catch-up after they too had been given a stop-and-go penalty. Meanwhile, in the race lead, Emmanuel Lupero was keeping it fast and clean, heading to take the win at the checkered flag. That gave Frank Biela and Emmanuel Lupero 2 wins in a row, but second place was taken by the Cadillac after being promoted by the stop-and-go penalty for the number 2 Audi. The 11 Nighthawk went on to win the 6.75 class, whilst Ron Fellows and Johnny O'Connell won the GTS class, with Lucas Law and Sasha Masson eventually taking the GT win. The end of another tremendous race in Miami, and it was way back in March that this year's championship began with a 12-hour kickstart to the year before heading to some of America's finest circuits and also crossing the border to Canada before returning to the US again for the 3 remaining races of the year. And so too the last race of the year, and it's another marathon one to round off the season, and importantly it will be the results here that will also decide the Drivers' Championships as well. There are 10 hours of racing ahead when the green flag finally waves the cars off the grid here at Road Atlanta for the Petit Le Mans. No surprise in the GT class that it was the Alex Job team that was on top of the qualifying scoreboard, but this time it was Jörg Bergmeister in the 22 car that set his first ever pole ahead of his teammates who were pretty close behind. The 3 Corvette was again having one of those qualifying sessions where they were just not getting the best out of the car in the GTS class battle. But they did get ahead of the Conrad Celine to take second place, but that would be behind the pro-drive Ferrari on the grid. But catching up is not a problem that Ron Fellows has a particular difficulty with.
We got to keep in mind our primary goal is the championship, and you know we're going to have to be we're not going to be able to race the Ferrari early, so maybe this is a bit of a blessing anyway.
The pole for the 3-man pro-drive team of Peter Cox, Thomas Enger and Alan Menu was certainly welcome. The Ferrari didn't have the best of outings last time, but the combination has already been a winning one at Laguna Seca, and this would be an important victory for them to take here.
We had the tactic to wait until the traffic will be a little bit less than in the beginning of qualifying. Unfortunately, it didn't work by our way, and I had traffic in my every lap in qualifying, which I think it would have been even faster, but I'm really happy for the fastest lap. I am really happy for the team. The Michelin tires were working really well, and now we just need to do the same tomorrow in the race.
The Dyson Racing's team, Lola MG, has been quick since it first appeared part-way through the championship year. And not only did it set the 675 class pole, it was the third quickest overall car, a mighty achievement.
Well, obviously, we want to do as well as we can. If we can finish in the top three, that would be absolutely fantastic. First thing is to finish. Second thing is to win 675. Third thing is to try and get on the podium overall.
The Dyson did cause a surprise, but the pace of the Yerst Audis didn't cause too many eyelids to flutter. The biggest team in the paddock had everything under control the moment it arrived in the paddock. And again, for the number 2 Audi of Christensen and Cappello, the championship is the vital element here.
I was hoping it could be better because last year I did a 10.9, so I was hoping it could be better this year. I've been rain during the week, so we have not been testing too much. But I still believe we have a strong package with the setup for the race tomorrow. And this is what Dindo and I will try to sleep on.
The championship is also within reach of the number 1 Audi as well, and they dominated all through practice and then in qualifying to set the class and overall pole and to gain 1 extra point for Frank Biela.
If something happens to the other car, I mean, we really do not want them to run into trouble, but if something happens and you lose it by 1 point, you will shoot yourself, you know. No, so that's why we swapped the driver now for qualifying. No, I'm very happy. I mean, I did 6 times qualifying, 6 times on pole, so this is definitely a very good result.
It's going to be a long race without a doubt, and one which in many things are possible, and we've seen the most exceptional incidents happen throughout this year's season. With 10 hours of piston-pounding racing ahead, it's an early start for the American Le Mans paddock, ready for the rolling start at 11:30, for a race that will take them through to the hours of darkness, an additional element that will most certainly provide its own difficulties. David Brabham was sporting certainly not regulation headgear, which possibly could have got him in trouble with the fashion police. But it just goes to show the atmosphere here in front of the pit lane during the usual colourful opening ceremony, and it was relaxed as ever until those final few moments where the final preparations began and certain muscles started to tighten within the drivers' bodies as they prepared to roll out from the grid for the final time in this year's American Le Mans Championship. The track temperature is currently at 91 degrees and the fans are bathing in 82 degrees of sunshine, but that is certainly going to get a lot hotter, especially on the track, where the cars are now heading out for the formation laps before they get the all-go on the rolling start. The confirmation of the final grid then, what we already know. Frank Biela, Emmanuel Lupero starting on pole for the LMP 900 class. 675 is going to be an interesting battle again this time here for them, and also in the GTS a lot of things going on. The GTs, well, we tend to know pretty much what's going to happen there, but a long way to go as they come round now for the final turn and for the final time get the green flag this year. Textbook start for pole position men though. Emmanuel Lupero inside the number 1 Audi takes them away. Tom Christensen in second place. James Weaver incredibly in that 675 car that did so well to take third overall, as we look now inside the number 3 Corvette of Ron Fellows. Ahead of him there is the Celine. Johnny Herbert in 4th place, so Johnny with a lot of work to catch out. There's the Ferrari, there's the Celine, and Ron Fellows in the GTS class. And there is, we just caught a glimpse of the number 22 car, but James Weaver and the team have done so well with that car this year, with that Lola MG, and it's going to be interesting to see how well they go here. On board the 56 Phil Beam, and they've had an up and down year as well. The three-man team inside that car. Fingers crossed for them here as well. And this circuit is all about downforce. And past goes another one of the prototype cars as we come back to our race leader, who's pulled out a couple of seconds now on Tom Christensen. And I'm quite surprised about that as well, that he's got away so quickly. And Christensen seemed to be a little bit slow there. James Weaver was right behind in the number 16 car. Great view, the sweeping curves. A lot of speed through there. Weaver still third. Johnny Herbert in fourth place, and off goes one of the Intersport cars. It's the number 30 car. Clint Field's gone off at turn 3 and reported he's got a suspension problem at the rear left, and that car is unbalanced. Certainly that rear left is causing a problem and stays wide. Through goes the number 11 Nighthawk car. A couple of the GT cars now closing up, but he stays out of the way and will limp what will be an eternity round this circuit to get to the pit lane to see if they can do anything with that car. Let's hope so. Of course, got plenty of time in this race to make repairs and get back out again and see what they can do. And here's a replay then of Clint Field, and front wheel off the ground there and gets into a spin, but the problem had already started before that spin. Just goes over the concrete curb onto the grass. And already this is our race leader coming round to lap the slower cars. It's not the race leader, sorry, that's in second place. Tom Christensen, James Weaver there. Got past the number 11 Nighthawk and a whole gaggle of cars looking for the way through. Christensen's past one of the GT cars. Weaver goes with him. There's the Nighthawk car. And the 360 Modena Ferrari in the GT class. Nice to see the Ferraris going well. Good strong field of Ferraris now. And James Weaver looking very strong at Tom Christensen. He's inside and he's got him as well. And Christensen loses third place. Down to third, up to second goes James Weaver. And there is the number 36 car. Mark Goossens inside that car, the Riley and Scott, that caused a stir at Miami. And Christensen looking for a way past Weaver. And Goossens is very close as well. And Goossens has gone through. And Christensen has lost 2 places in less than a lap. Fights back, tries to get on the inside, but can't get through in time. And what has Tom Christensen got a problem? Well, quite a surprise that the 675 car got past so easily, and the Panos is right behind Christensen now, and Christensen must have some sort of drama in that car because the Panos is closing all the time. Jan Magnussen is right up close behind that Audi. Well, it's drama, and drama definitely for the number 61 car that's found himself reversed into the rear of the barrier. And that was caused by one of the prototypes, I think, that unsighted him as he went past and spun and clouted the barrier with the front end, and a lot of damage to that car. Well, here's Jan Magnussen in third place, thanks to pit stops ahead of him in the field during the caution. And he's got Mark Goossens very close behind him as they go underneath the bridge. There's a GT car there. Magnussen looking for a way past, and he's got stuck behind him. Mark Goossens is going to go through and take the place, so goes through to take third place. And, well, yeah, Magnussen will be distraught about that. Concentration, the key element, of course. And let's see how much Mark Goossens can pull out on the Panos. Here's a replay of a collision between the number 55 Viper and Mark Bunting in the Dodge Viper. Pierre Hay in the Bucknam Philbin Nissan, the second of the cars. And a lot of damage there, so we're going to be under caution again whilst they clear the debris away from those 2 cars. And the Vipers have been involved in many incidents throughout the series this year. And preparations in the Audi pit then, imminent pit stops. Dindo Cappello and Frank Biela preparing for pit stop. And certainly the communications have been disconnected there and placed on top of the helmet, ready for a quick pit stop. They come down the hill into the pit road. The pit entry, 60 kilometers an hour. They have to keep to for the speed limit. As we get a shot there of Emmanuel Lupero. He gets out. Frank Biela runs round. The fuel's going in. No personnel other than the refuelers and the drivers can touch the car at this time. As soon as the fuel rig's out, the hydraulic jacks will be activated. The number 2 Audi's in as well, and it's a driver change there, as we expected as well. Dindo Cappello getting in. The hydraulics will be activated. The tyres then will be changed. And there is the number 16 car. James Weaver is staying in. Fuel going in. Tyres are ready. Just waiting to jump on that car, and going very slowly indeed is the number 24 car, Stefan Dowdy, in the Auto Exec Mazda in the 675s. He's got suspension damage, we're told, so he too having to limp round to the pits, and the mechanics will see what they can do with that car. And there is the 22 car that's got a puncture. Leader in the GT class, or was, but Timo Bernhardt is on the pit road now, heading for the pits, and lost an awful lot of time. You can see the bodywork has been damaged by that flailing tyre, and that can so easily do a heck of a lot of damage to these cars. Probably less so for the likes of the GT and the GTS cars, but pit stop under process now. James Weaver out ahead of Dindo Cappello, didn't change the driver. And interesting to see what the changes can make to these cars. We're told that the number 2 car has changed the downforce settings. Will it work out in their favour?
Because there was a caution, we took the opportunity to give us a little bit more downforce on the rear, because the car got a bit light as the tyre pressures rose a bit in the first stint. But apart from that, everything's okay.
So that certainly then could have been the cause to why we saw Tom Christensen losing so many positions. And Dindo Cappello hopefully now will be in a better position to try and make some ground. He's very close behind the number 16 car. In fact, that's the number 36 car that he's behind. Mark Goosen still in that car, and he's passed cleanly, and also must have got past James Weaver then. And now he's got one of the Intersport cars to get past. That's the number 37 car that's holding him up slightly. The Cadillacs are moving up as well. There's the BMW in the GT class, the 2 Cadillacs. This is the final race for the North Star Cadillac team. The end of their prototype racing. We're on board inside the Corvette, though, looking at the olive green Ferrari, the number 0 car in the GTS class. On board with Johnny O'Connell, who's taken over from Ron Fellows and goes through to pass the Ferrari. And the Ferrari that I think we mentioned last time has just got so much better throughout the season. So up one place goes Johnny O'Connell. And it also means Ron Fellows has just picked up a championship point for completing the mandatory 25 laps.
I'm afraid we're just slipping and sliding at the moment, but I'm happy we got the Drivers' Championship. That's pretty neat. It's pretty neat. I thank all the guys at Brett Miller, Team Corvette, my teammate Johnny O'Connell, Oliver Gavin as well, all the guys here. It's a tremendous honor. I'm happy to be here.
Just that 1 point made the difference then in the GTS Drivers' Championship. Meanwhile, JJ Leto is in the pits. He's coming for fuel only. You can see the smoke from the brakes. Of course, no cooling while the car is stationary, so they just get hotter and hotter. They need to get that car out as quickly as possible. Frank Biela is on his way, believe it or not, to the pits for a stop-and-go penalty. He's had contact with the number 25 car back at turn 4 and has been penalised, so is on his way for a stop-and-go penalty. Well, the way his lead is at the moment, it should be enough time for him to get into the pits for the stop and then back out again in the lead. It all depends on what's happened behind him. So slowly through at 60 kilometers an hour. And the IMSA officials will be waiting for him at the end of the pit lane. They will hold him momentarily and then release him, let him go again. And it must seem like an eternity as he makes his way all the way down to the bottom stop, and away he goes again. Time served, and now has to get back up to speed again. And we'll have to see how this plays out. Or gets back out ahead of one of the Corvettes, but back into traffic again. And here's a replay, and that just goes through on the inside of the Conrad 25 Celine, and that is what he was penalised for. It was judged to be his mistake, and unfairly too. And there is the number 33 ProDrive Ferrari 550 that is leading the GTS class. Thomas Enger on board of that. Peter Cox, and also touring car specialist Alan Menu in the team here this weekend. And in the pits, David Brabham is changing over to Jan Magnussen. Seatbelt's just getting tightened up there, and just taking a little bit of time. The mechanics have finished working on the car, and this is the reason that caused the pit stop. You can see a puncture to the reel of the paint nozzle. And in the gravel is Tony Seiler in the Conrad Celine, number 26. So he's had a drama, and he's going to have to be pulled out of that, because that is well and truly stuck. The corner workers will have to... here's a replay of the number 1 car and also number 16 very close together. And fire out the back of the 16 car, and then gets hit by the number 1 car as well. And that 16 car is well and truly alight. And that is a horrible moment for Andy Wallace, who's inside that car now and jumps briskly out of the car. Here's a replay then, and the Audi gets hit disastrously from that. And that was a very nasty moment indeed for both drivers. And the Audi, badly damaged, has made it back to the pits. And Emmanuel Lupero will certainly be a little bit shocked by that.
The MG of Andy Wallace, I was following him out of a corner in full acceleration. His engine blew up and seized, so the car basically locked. And I just couldn't avoid him, you know. I hit him, and it was even a bit frightening because it was so quick. But fortunately the car is strong, and it even looks like we can fix it to do some few more laps later on.
Well, there is the number 16 car that is well and truly retired. The end of the race for them, and what an utter and severe disappointment for them as well. They were having such a good weekend. Well, there is Stefan Johansson inside the champion Audi, the R8, the customer Audi that's got some new aerodynamics this weekend. Just about the same as the works cars. Audi sort of definitely trying for the 1, 2, 3, which doesn't look to be on at the moment, with the number 1 car in bits in the pits at the moment. Meanwhile, Max Anginelli, who's in 3rd place, passes the number 33 car, Peter Cox, now inside the Ferrari 550 Maranello, and has damage to the front splitter there. Difficult to see where that's come from, whether that's debris that's been picked up off the track, maybe from that incident we saw earlier, or whether that is actually from the Ferrari splitter as well. And it doesn't look serious, but of course it's affecting the aerodynamics. It's possibly going to make that car a little bit more difficult to drive. That's certainly what you don't need here. It could be quite some time before the next pit stop. They won't want to bring him in early unless they absolutely have to, because of course they're going to lose time. And it means that problems for the number 55 car as well that we saw in that incident earlier. And that's got some sort of problems as well, because it looks very uneven. You can see tape on the front that the mechanics put on earlier. That is touring and heading towards the pits with a puncture on the rear left-hand side. Is not going well for them at all. Something like 3.5 hours completed now. Dindo Cappello in the number 2 Audi North Sport America car that leads here at Road Atlanta, the final race of the championship series. And it looks very much at the moment that Tom Christensen is on his way to being the drivers' champion this year. They missed out last year And missing out is the number 22 car. The lights go off, and there is big problems for that Porsche. The Alex Joe Porsche has got an engine that's had enough from the looks of the smoke behind it. And what a disappointing way for the team who've been so strong this year to end this race. Unless they can get that car back and try and fix the problem, depending on how major it is. In the meantime, there is the 36 car picking his way through some of the GT cars. One of the Vipers ahead of him now. Mark Goossens, though, coming up behind number 45, Marino Franchitti, and they touch as well, and the Viper goes off onto the grass and goes wide, but he'll get back on it again. The Dodge Viper came into collision there with that Riley and Scott. And is there any damage to Mark Goossens' car? Well, there's the olive green Ferrari that Mark Goossens is coming up behind now. Well, the car looks to be stable enough. In the pits, though, is Chad Block, number 11. They won the race in Miami. They won the race in Laguna Seca as well. Claudio Hurtgen not with him this time. And he's pointing to the pit crew. The fuel nozzle goes on, the tyres are ready, and he's getting out. And Andy Lally is going to take over that car. And who's this then picking their way through? It's the Panos, and the Panos of Brian Herter has got serious bodywork damage. The right rear tyre has come off as well. And this is due to an incident with the number 56 car of Chris McMurray. So the bodywork got damaged, the rubber has come completely off that wheel, and now he has to limp back to the pits, and it's just at the bottom of this drop here, but certainly new rear bodywork required. And number 4's gone off as well. Kelly Collins in the GTS class in the Corvette has spun at turn 5. Well, he continues. Gravel spews out of the back and the front of that car as well, which of course gets onto the circuit, makes it very difficult for everybody else. And the Nighthawk car has, of Andy Lally has got back out again, but we're told the Nighthawk car now has been given a stop and go penalty for too many people working on the car during that pit stop we saw before. So they've got drama. We're on board with number 1, Frank Biela, who unbelievably is now back out in that car again after it's been repaired. Oh, and that's a big crash indeed. That's number 34. That's the Ferrari 550. The number 34 car of, that was Craig Stanton that was in that car at the time. And that's a big crash. And that's a lot of damage to the tyre barriers there. So pit lane open. The number 2 Audi heads to the pits now. And that's going to take some time to repair. This could be a very long caution indeed. But in for fuel and a driver change for the number 2. Tom Christensen is about to get in. There is Craig. He's perfectly okay, but not happy at all. Very disappointed with that. And Johnny Herbert is getting in the 38 car. They're also replacing the bodywork at the front. There's some damage to that. This has given them a chance to change that, and a whole new front goes on. Made of carbon fibre, incredibly strong, unbelievably strong. Very, very light indeed as well. So that gets replaced. The fuel is in, the tyres have been dealt with, and just the driver to strap in now, and he'll go back out again. And the safety car taking them round, the panels at the front, but of course the order has all been changed by the pit stops, and a long, long time is elapsing during this. The drivers just have to try and keep the temperatures up in the tyres, and of course importantly the brakes as well. They will see the progress of the repairs.
We had a bit of a miscue there on one of the stops, and we thought we had a puncture, but we didn't. But you know, we're in the hunt, we're on the lead lap, so you know, I think we're in pretty good shape. We're doing the same speed as the leader, so anything can happen.
Well, there is the number 50 Panos, David Donoghue, the 3rd driver in that car this weekend. And they get the green flag after something like 51 minutes under caution. And interestingly, 38 car of Johnny Herbert went back into the pit some 25 minutes after its last pit stop and has filled up with fuel. And of course, they've been burning fuel off, and 25 minutes of fuel at this rate is, of course, less than they would use at full pelt, but they've taken the interesting strategy of filling that car right up, so that's going to go longer than maybe some of the others, so we'll see how that plays out. And there is the olive green Ferrari that we conveniently on board with now, with one of the Cadillacs behind him. Not anymore though, thank you very much. Slipped straight through and past Mimo Shiratarella, who's inside that car, and that's Chris McMurray that's had a bit of a spin at turn 2 in the Buckingham Fullbeam Nissan, the Fairy Tale Brownies car. Oh, and that's a big fire. Well, it could be a very big fire if we're not careful. For the number 11 car, Andy Lally has reportedly got a fluid leak in the car. We don't know quite what the fluid is, but it's still threatening to come back to life again. The bodywork is off the car. The mechanic's now looking for the cause of that problem. And Andy Lally was for a minute about to get out of that car, but of course with fire potential disaster, he's going to be watching what's going on behind him. Meanwhile, back on the road, and that is the number 2 Audi, the distinctive yellow and silver liveried Audi R8 that is, if things stay this way, on his way to taking the championship. And in the pits for the 37 Intersport Banana Joe's car. New tyres going on, driver getting strapped in. And Duncan Dayton will be, in a few minutes' time, heading out onto the track. Well, rather no, Duncan Dayton's now handed over to Michael Duran for his stint in the 675, and they're leading the 675 class. And meanwhile, that was Emmanuel Lupero we were on board with in 9th position now, and that's a car, that's the 26 car that's gone wide. And onto the grass at turn 1, Tony Seiler is doing a bit of grass tracking now. Carefully works his way around that rather steep curve. And here's a replay. This is the 83 Celine this time, getting in a spin. That's Sean Balfe, and almost touched that number 1 Audi, and that would have been supreme disaster for them, but he's got it on the track, and I'm sure he'll get going in the right direction. On board then with Emmanuel Lupero in 9th place. Lost all that time because of virtually rebuilding a quarter of the car, it seems. But they're back out and quite a way down. Race leader number 2 just ahead there, and problems for the 26 car. He's got a puncture now, which either caused that incident or has been caused by that incident. And the tyre has come away completely from the rim, and now Tony Seiler has to, oh dear, Tony Arve has crashed at turn 1, and that Riley and Scott is pretty much destroyed, and that is a big incident. Well, he's still in the car, he's moving his head, so we know he's okay, and just waiting for some assistance, I think. No urgency in his body language. Meanwhile, Emmanuel Lupero still on his way, still trying to make up positions. And of course, the headlights will be very important later on when darkness falls, as several hours of this race will continue under the cover of darkness. There's our race leader. There is number 2, Tom Christensen. They will be hoping that luck stays on their side. Johnny Herbert behind there in the 38 car. JJ Leto, who's actually in 3rd place but several laps down, is just nodding his head there, just telling Johnny, yep, go ahead, take it. We're not fighting for position at this moment in time, and made life very easy for Johnny to get through. And as we've said it many times, the sportsman-like behaviour most of the time here during this series is something to be applauded. Up over the top of the hill goes Johnny Herbert, and you'll see the little indicator lights on the side just near the rear wheel arches on both sides of the cars that give you an indication of the number they are in class. 2 lights on Johnny's car means he's 2nd in class, and he's 2nd by only the smallest of margins now, behind Tom Christensen. The pressure is going to be on. Tom Christensen needs to get past that Panos. The Panos of Jan Magnussen is not making life very easy for him either. And Johnny Herbert is in a glove throws distance of getting behind that Audi. And can he pass it? That's the big question. Well, Johnny, a very tough driver, so too Tom Christensen. And those two little lights on the side there, of course, will be a lot more easier to see during the hours of darkness, but this is shaping up to be quite some battle. Christensen, can he get past the Panos this time? No, he doesn't. And there's a Cadillac ahead as well, and Johnny Herbert is just inching up on the back of that factory Audi all the time. He can see those two cars ahead, and he'll just be hoping now that that might just cause a situation where he can slip past. We saw it happen earlier with the Panos, and Johnny Herbert will just stay as close as he can. Tom Christensen right on the back of the Panos. Is he going to get past this time? Goes for the inside line, and he gets through. The Panos has to move out of the way, and now Johnny Herbert's looking for a way through, and that was a very firm slamming of the door by the Panos. And was not having that at all. And Johnny Herbert has got to get his way past, and got to get his way past quickly before Tom Christensen catches and attempts to pass that Cadillac and put more space between these two. So, an open dogfight on this circuit here at Road America at this final round at the moment. And the battle for the lead is what we're looking at here at the moment. Of course, if these two get very close together and stay that way, it's then going to put more impetus on how the pit stops turn out. We know that Johnny Herbert has more fuel inside that car, or we think he has, than the number 2 car. But again, it's down to how those cars use it. Again, how the drivers are using the power of the cars, of course, can affect the fuel consumption. And these two are not driving at the most economical rate at the moment. They will be guzzling fuel left, right and centre, and still Johnny Herbert can't get past the Panos. And Tom Christensen looking for a way past the Cadillac still, and it's not happening. GT car just gets out of the way. Is it going to happen this time? The Cadillac goes past that yellow GT car. Through goes Christensen. Johnny Herbert not as close behind the Panos as he was, but these four almost inseparable at the moment, but at different parts of the race. On board then in the GT class with the number 23 car that leads, of course. We saw his teammate go out before and retire, which was a little bit unfortunate, but Sasha Masson leads the GT class at the moment, and he leads by 2 laps as well, ahead of the number 31 car. So only one of the Alex Job team Porsches in this race now. And there is the second place man. There's Randy Pobsten in the Peterson Motorsport Porsche. Second place in the GT. 2 laps down though. And at the moment, a tall order to try and catch the 23 car. But we've already seen the most bizarre circumstances in this race so far, and anything could happen. You have just got to keep in contention. Ralph Kellner's in the number 35 Ferrari 360 Modena that currently is 3rd in the GT battle, and the Ferrari's going fairly well this weekend. And Thomas Enger has returned to the pits after a stint in the Pro Drive Ferrari.
It's very hot. I mean, it's something like in Sebring this year. So the temperature inside of the car is very high, and there is not coming too much air inside of the car. So you come out of the car and you are really exhausted.
Well, it doesn't look too bad. Of course, he is very fit as well, but meanwhile, the mechanics are doing their keep fit in the pit lane for the Audi team, and there is Johnny Herbert in the number 38 car, Christensen in. Johnny Herbert staying out and has taken the lead. Now, can Dindo Cappello, who's inside that car, get out before Herbert? The answer, simply no. So, Johnny Herbert ahead in the 900 class, and of course, overall in the race as well. And of course, Johnny Herbert, we suspected had more fuel on board because of that earlier pit stop. During the very, very long caution. Almost an hour was spent under that caution whilst they rebuilt the damaged tyres, and he goes past the number 83 Celine, 2 Celines together there on the circuit in the GT class. And look back now, where is Tom Christensen? Don't see him at the moment, but should be coming over the top very, very soon indeed. And that's quite a gap. There he is now. So there is Dindo Cappello inside the car. So that's the gap between first and second place. That's the amount of work that Dindo Cappello has got to make up, and or due to make up, but we don't know quite when the champion Audi is going to have to pit. Well, darkness starting to fall. It is officially night time now. Headlights are on, and of course that will make driving just that little bit more difficult for all these drivers. Lucas Luhr, though, comfortably ahead in the GT class. Taken over from Sasha Masson. These two drivers have been swapping and changing throughout the course of this race. And something like 7 hours and 40 minutes have elapsed. The moon is out, and here's a crash. This is at turn 6, and that's one of the Vipers, I think. And it's the number 45 Viper of Mike Hazelman's that goes very, very heavily into the tyre wall there. Well, he's out, he's perfectly okay, but I think he's, shall we say, surprised, if not completely shocked by that incident. And, well, that brought the caution out once more. And there is the number 33 Ferrari that's currently second place in the GTS, but pit stops, I think, are going to shuffle that order once more. Quite a lot of space on the track for him at the moment. No traffic ahead of him, just trying to keep the hammer down and keep the times up as we go on board with Frank Biela and Emmanuel Lupero's car. And Frank Biela inside is now up to 6th place in the Audi. That's one of the Corvettes, I think, ahead of him, that he'll catch and pass very quickly indeed. Light in the sky from the helicopter that's picking up the microwave pictures that's giving us this camera view that we've got now. And you can see just how dark it is here. And they have to pick their way through. It's slightly easier at the night for the drivers to see cars approaching them in their rear view mirrors. But, oh, that car just locking up its rear tyres there. And through goes the number 2 car. Through goes our race leader. It's all going very well indeed for Dindo Cappello. And half a dozen or so laps remaining in this race. In the pits for a quick drop of fuel, Stefan Johansson. He gets the signal to head back out, 2nd place, and comfortably so as well. There is the number 3 Corvette that is 2nd in class now, the way the pit stops have worked out. Ron Fellows is now in 2nd place by something like 3 seconds from the Ferrari of Thomas Enger that is now leading the GTS class. So, Ferrari ahead of Corvettes. It's not going to make any difference to the Drivers' Championship, but Ron Fellows will know just how small that gap is, and if he gets the chance to close it and fight for that lead, he will do. There is the Corvette, and that gap looks to be closing all the time. Ron Fellows now will just be foot down and concentrating on just trying to see what he can do. Thomas Enger, of course, will know exactly where he is, and that gap is definitely smaller than it was, and that gap is now 2.8 seconds. That Thomas Enger leads Ron Fellows less than 3 seconds, and that will be the red rag to the Ron Fellows bull. If he can see that Ferrari, which we're sure he can, he'll know that's the car, and it's very, very much easier to catch a car that you can see than to try and stay ahead of one behind you. It's the way the mentality works, and through to pass the 360 Ferrari goes the 550 Pro Drive, gets out of the way, doesn't cause any problems for him. And where is Ron Fellows? That's not Ron Fellows. There is Ron Fellows. And the 2 green lights indicate he's 2nd in class. And he's closing, he's closing, he's closing. And Thomas Enger has got problems. He must have problems because that Corvette is catching him very, very quickly indeed now. And Ron Fellows is going to take the class lead. There is smoke from the Ferrari. There is something, it looks to be possibly a puncture. It looked to be from the left-hand side of that Ferrari, and this is just tough luck for Thomas Enger and the ProDrive team. Going slowly now. There is definitely a tyre problem. You can see the smoke. It's the front left-hand side tyre, and if we can get a clear view, you can see it is collapsed. And what a bitter disappointment for the Ferrari team. With a handful of laps to go, he has to come into the pits. He's lost the lead of the GTS class, and that is just bitter, bitter racing luck. Well, Ron Fellows would argue that differently, and so too the rest of the Corvette team, who've now taken the lead of the GTS class. Little splash of fuel. There were concerns about fuel as well in that Ferrari. Ron Fellows certainly had plenty inside his Corvette, didn't have to worry about that, as we pick up now the overall leader, Dindo Cappello, who is on his way very soon indeed to the checkered flag. And a perfect race it's been for them. And another win for them. Just caught the sight of the glowing discs there as he went into the turn. Drivers and cars very tired now, and the Audis have hardly missed a beat. It's disappointing for the #1 crew, of course, that they got involved in that incident before, but no reflection on them, and it was just being caught up in other people's misery. So the checkered flag is being unfurled and will be dropped in 2 seconds as he crosses the line to take the win, to win the Petit Le Mans and to win the Drivers' Championship for the #2 crew as well. And the Audi team are just simply delighted. So Dindo Cappello takes the victory in the Petit Le Mans, the final race of the year, ahead of Johnny Herbert and Stefan Johansson. Cadillac get their 4th podium in a row, courtesy of the #8 car crew. John Field gets the 675 win for his long efforts, and the #3 Corvette confirmed as winning the GTS class, whilst it's another win for Lucas Luhr and Sascha Masson in the GT class.
Obviously a fantastic year, very stressful year. It has been tough in the point system and all the whole things. It's very close. You can't retire. You can't afford to retire. So I'm proud of Dindo, I'm proud of the team, and I'm happy to be here.
It was certainly early in the race that Canadian Ron Fellows had wrapped up the GTS Drivers' Championship, but to get the race win as well was certainly an even greater bonus for him and for the team as well.
Well, it doesn't get any better than this. Drivers' Championship, Manufacturers' Championship, Tire Manufacturers' Championship, Team Championship for Pratt Miller and for Corvette. I have terrific teammates, Johnny and Oliver. Wow, I'm out of breath.
Sascha Masson and Lucas Luhr celebrate their win in the GTA class that they have dominated so impressively this year, with the only challenge coming from their teammates. In the 675 class, John Field takes the championship honours ahead of Ben Devlin. Both drivers have had mixed fortunes this season, and this is how the championship finished off after 10 hard rounds and thousands of miles covered on both the circuits and the roads in between them as well. It's going to be a night of celebration. The pressure is over for this season, but it all starts again in March next year at the Sebring at the start of an 11-round series that includes races in Mexico and in Europe.